Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs, the podcast for burned out, career-minded moms who are ready to stop pretending everything's fine and feel like themselves again. I'm your host, Christy Amir, burnout coach for moms, licensed therapist, and mom of two. And I'm here to help you reclaim your energy, your identity, and your peace of mind. Whether you're lying awake thinking about the 87 things you didn't get done, or silently resenting the people you love most, this is your space to feel seen, supported, and not so alone. So grab your coffee, hot, cold, or day old, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Christy. Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs. In today's episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, Alexandra or Lexi Reid. Lexi is a scientist turned creative wellness coach who helps smart, high-achieving women reduce stress and reconnect with themselves through art therapy-inspired practices. With a PhD in plant molecular biology and a career spanning research, government, and medical devices, Lexi knows firsthand what burnout feels like. During the pandemic, she found that simple creative exercises helped her calm her mind and regain a sense of balance. Now, through her creative reset programs and weekly newsletter, The Creative Shift, she supports women in STEM and beyond to find breathing space, emotional clarity, and a path back to joy without needing to be artists or add more to their plate. So I've invited Lexi here today to share a bit about her personal story of navigating high-pressure work and caregiving responsibilities before discovering unexpected creativity. She's going to talk a bit about the approach that she uses, which blends personal insight with neuroscience while using simple creative practices to help women reduce stress and calm their nervous systems. So, Lexi, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to, chatting with you about kind of how the journey got me here. So looking forward to it.
Me too. I'm very excited to have you here. So, can you maybe just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your background as a scientist?
Yeah. So, as far as growing up, I was strongly interested in both fine art and biology, and my parents strongly recommended I go into science because I think they were worried I'd be poor if I went into art, as parents are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the typical academic route. I did a bachelor's in biology, a master's, a PhD, which is where I met my husband in graduate school. We were both studying at University of Calgary. I followed him to France, which is where I had my son during his postdoc. Then we came back to Canada and I had my daughter during my postdoc. So
Wow.
exactly. Learning to juggle babies and research. So I have a son and daughter now. We are now officially empty nesters, which is a whole other journey, I will say, getting used to that. So my son's in his last year of university. My daughter's in her first year of university. So we're left with our fur babies, a cat and a dog right now. But yes, I definitely was juggling daycare, everything, trying to balance doing lab work, having to go in sometimes in the evenings, sometimes weeknights, because I was running experiments that needed to be checked on. God, I think it was every 12 hours I had to go in, depending when, the time courses were set up. And my husband was busy starting his career too. So we were trying to balance the work life, kids, everything. And it was a challenge because we didn't have a lot of family support, as I'm sure a lot of working moms find themselves in that situation. His family was all on the West Coast. My family was in Ontario, same as us, but Ontario is a big place. And, so you couldn't, if the kids, I have a very distinct memory of us selling our house and my kids having the flu, and we had an open house. And I remember having to put them in their car seats and literally drive around the city waiting for the open house to be done because they couldn't be put in daycare because they were sick and we couldn't be in the house. So all of those challenges. But yeah, I'm living now on the West Coast, where my husband's family is. So enjoying nature, the ocean, the forests here. And yeah, basically trying to get out either on the water or out in nature with my dog as much as I can.
So you have had a lot going on. It sounds like you have been through all the seasons of, raising kids at least through childhood, and now you're in this new chapter of empty nesters, which I'm sure is, like you said, a big change. I'm sure that that brings about a lot of feelings. It's a big time of adjustment, I'm sure. But again, it sounds like you've sort of done it all. Like you've really, you have lived through a lot of the things that the listeners are really kind of going through right now, which is amazing. I'm sure you have some great insights. So, when you and I, when I was sort of reading up about you a little bit earlier, you had mentioned that you have experienced burnout, right? When you
Yep.
were raising kids and working and doing all the things. And so I would love to just hear a little bit more about that. And what what was the turning point when you realized that you were burned out and that something needed to change for you?
So I hit what I realized was burnout. I didn't realize it at the time.
Mhm.
So it was during the pandemic. So, like everyone, we had the kids at home. They were doing school online. My son had just started high school. My daughter had just started middle school. So, dealing with just new schools, but suddenly being online. I was also working for a medical device company. We just landed a big government contract to both develop and manufacture emergency ventilators for the Canadian government. So now I was working almost 24/7. I was in quality and regulatory. So we had to scrutinize all the documentation the engineers were doing. We had to scrutinize the devices. And it was pretty much we were expected to be on call. Anything that came in, we had to address really quickly because we were both under a deadline with the government, but also we understood that, Canadians needed these devices. It was a huge emergency. Like it's interesting thinking now because, they think, oh, we have vaccines now. But at the time we didn't.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
we thought we had to have all these ventilators ready to go. So yeah, I was working from home. My husband was also working from home. He came home a day earlier than me, so he claimed the main floor office. So I was trying to work up in our bedroom, but then also trying to balance, trying to get the kids ready for their online stuff. And as everyone remembers, we were all trying to get familiar with Zoom.
Mhm.
The internet wasn't supporting things. Things kept
Mhm.
crashing. And so the turning point for me is like, as you can see in my background, I've got a quite nice art studio.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I used to do art on the side as a way to relax, a way to sort of de stress. And I found during the pandemic, I couldn't even go into my studio. It just like, I had a huge mental and emotional block being creative. I felt like, it was almost like I was being disconnected from my work, like, I was losing empathy with my kids, I was losing empathy with my husband, like, I was pretty much just sort of shutting down, but it was gradual, right? Like, it was just bit by bit, it was becoming I was becoming numb, and, I kept going into my studio and just staring at the art supplies going, "I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start." Like, it was just I had this huge block, and I thought, "Well," I left the studio and I was just sitting at my desk on a Zoom call,
Mhm.
and I just started, you know, drawing circles, like spirals over and over again, and suddenly I realized, "Hey, I actually feel better." Like, it
Mhm.
was just and, and I started looking into art therapy and mindfulness techniques, and there's a huge amount of research about these simple, almost like repetitive mark making tasks, whether it's doodling, whether it's making mandalas, which are circular patterns. There's a lot of research that shows it gets you out of that fight or flight response
Mhm.
because it focuses your attention very much on what your hand is doing, but it also relaxes your body because it's repetitive, it's a soothing action. And the nice thing was for me, doing these little, what I was just calling my 2-minute doodle moments is it allowed me to start getting my brain kind of out of this feeling horribly stuck. They were like little mini wins, like little, momentary. They always talk about dopamine hits, but it was more relaxing than that for me. It allowed me that reset, that like, oh, I can think a little clearer right now. I'm a little less emotionally triggered right now. And the more I read up on it, I thought, oh, this is something that we can all use. Like, it's not just for artists, right? Like, this is just something out there. And
Mhm.
that's what sort of led me down that creative wellness path.
Mhm. Well, and a few of the things that you had said, like as I was listening to you talk right now, that I just kind of wanted to highlight a little bit just for the moms who are listening is one, you had mentioned that the burnout happened gradually, right? Which I think is such an important thing to recognize because um, stress and burnout are different, but a lot of times people confuse the two. And whereas stress is more temporary and it tends to be um, something that, we have a stressful situation or a stressful moment. And in a relatively short period of time, once the stressor goes away, then those symptoms that we experience often go away with it. Whereas burnout is a result of chronic unresolved stress and it is more gradual, right? And so people don't always see it. They don't always realize that it's coming until they're already sort of in it. And then the other thing that you had mentioned was about, not having empathy for your family. And the reason I'm just putting a spotlight on those two things is because I do think that it's important for a lot of moms to hear these things just because if they are experiencing them themselves too, just to know that like they're not alone in how they're feeling, like these things are actually very common. But anyways, coming back to what you were talking about in terms of, art and how that's helped you and all of that. And you talked about how like the research has shown that it can be really helpful because of everything that that you had just said. And I'm curious to hear more about how you sort of took that and this approach that now you have developed that helps women. Um, you had specifically talked about how the approach you use it blends personal insight with neuroscience, right? And I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit more about what that looks like and how you use that to help these women who are burned out.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sort of developing a series of programs, which I call
Hmm.
creative reset programs. So over the summer, I worked with 12 women individually to develop the program. And now I have another pilot continuing on with the group program. So it's again about 12, 15 women in a weekly session where we get together. So I send out basically an email each week with a set of reflective questions they're themed basically.
Hmm.
So one week may be about toxic relationships, another one might be about boundaries. And that sort of primes what I call the mental pump to start thinking about things. And then I also give two creative prompts with some videos. And they can be the one we just did recently was called basically it's called a body scan. And if you think of just drawing like a gingerbread figure, and then
Hmm.
you take different colors to draw where your stress is and what it feels like in the various parts of your body, and then also where you might feel more grounded or calm and what that looks like. And so we got together and we chatted about that. And we don't take a lot of time to reflect both, on our emotions and physically a lot of the times. Like we're so busy doing, right? Like
Hmm.
whether it's like, you know, God, I remember driving my daughter to piano and then having to make dinner. And then she had, and a project due the next day. And then, and then the next day she was a competitive climber. So we drive to climbing and then she had piano. Like it just felt like very much that hamster wheel of I'm so focused on getting my kids' life organized that I didn't take any time to think about my own life.
Hmm.
Um, right. So with these women, they're very much in the same, they're all in various stages of life. I have a, client who's a new mom and she's feeling all the pressures of being a new mom and working from home and working remotely and not having a lot of support from her family because they're far away, all the way up to, women who are working with their teenagers and navigating that relationship again with, navigating all the work stresses with bad managers and difficult directors. And so that's sort of the clientele I'm working with, all those stressors. So when we start doing some of the creative activities, this
Mhm.
is sort of what your brain's doing in plain language. So rhythm helps your body downshift. So that's one thing. So if you do slow breathing, repetitive mark making, it tells your nervous system it's safe to settle down. This sort of navigates you towards that parasympathetic rest and digest state. So your tension kind of eases. And that's why I frame the prompts to my clients as experiments. They're not tasks, they're just something you might want to think about trying. And it takes the pressure off. So it's not about making, a finished fine art thing. It's really about the process of just letting your brain wander, your hand make marks, and relax it a little bit. Um, that gives you a sensory anchor, what I say, and it helps to quiet that mental, the mind monkeys, the mental noise. If you're focusing on pen to paper sensations, it sort of lets you quiets the brain a bit. Your attention is somewhere to go, and that lets you untangle those thoughts a little bit. And then lastly, the just to sort of wrap it up, is these little small choices help to re-engage the thinking brain. So it gets you out of that ruminating over and over worrying moment. And just by, picking another color that appeals to you or drawing a line, deciding whether it's like, is it a crooked line? Is it a jagged line? Is it just, a wavy line? Like these little tiny pauses are like little tiny executive function reps, right? Like you're practicing regulation and reflection without forcing it. So yeah, I that's sort of the three steps that are sort of involved with these what the brain is doing while you're doing these little creative practices.
Okay, okay. Well, and I'm curious, I know a lot of people are very creative. They really enjoy doing these kinds of things. I'm curious, like I myself have I've never considered myself to be a creative person. And I'm so envious of people who are. I see some of the things that they put out there and how much they enjoy it. And it just yeah, it's something that I wish was one of my strengths. But I'm curious, like, what about people who don't consider themselves to be creative, or even those who just don't feel like they have the time to engage in these kinds of creative practices? Do you find that this approach is helpful for them too, or what do you say to the people who do believe that about themselves?
Oh, I'd say about half the women I work with would consider themselves not creative. But
Okay.
they were so at the end of their tether, they're like, I'll draw anything right now.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of the drawings are like at Pictionary level. Like we are not talking like fine art. We're talking, one of the exercises we do is called bridging the gap. And the idea is you basically draw a cliff on one side with a little stick figure and a cliff on the other side of what you want to happen in your life. And you draw a bridge. And the bridge could be like a stone bridge. It could be a stick bridge, like with planks and ropes. And it's not the quality of the drawing, it's the thinking of what's between me and where I want to go. And what's the thing I'm trying to get towards? Is it calm on the other side? Is it peace? Is it my kids have stopped fighting and there's quiet in the house for a moment? But it's that act of sort of just allowing yourself to, like it's doodle level. It's almost like an infographic, right? Like it's a different thing when you start trying to draw something visually or symbolically. Like a heart can mean so many things to so many different people, right? Or a star, or a lot of times my clients draw sunshine, right? I'm drawing a happy smiley face on the other side, and it's the sun, and that's where all my good feelings are, right? So symbols can bring a lot of things where, writing an essay wouldn't do the same thing. So, and the nice thing is then you have an artifact of how you're feeling. It's like a visual snapshot of what you're feeling at the time. So you can go back and look at it as well and go, oh, isn't that interesting? And the other thing with these little drawings is you can share them with others and talk about them. And
Mhm.
it comes up with a lot of fun conversations of what you realized you drew and also sometimes what you didn't decide to draw,
Mm,
things you
mhm.
excluded. I had one client who said she drew these like big choppy waves under her bridge. And she's like, and I don't know how to swim. Why did I draw these waves? So it's It's almost the reflection, like you get relaxation and reflection during the activity, but then you get that additional awareness when you go back and you reflect more on the finished drawing. So we've had some really interesting sort of aha moments, I like to call them, of looking at these drawings. And yes, they are not meant to be fine art. You could say it's basically the level of the kindergarten drawings you put up on the fridge, but they contain a lot of emotional information in them. And that's what helps us.
Well, and then what about, back to this point too about just not having a lot of time, even if they are if they are curious about trying these things, but say they only have, a couple minutes, are these
Oh, yes,
exercises that they could still do?
totally. Like when I was talking about those 2-minute doodles,
Mhm.
if, you know, take 3 deep breaths slowly, you breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, and draw with a pen. Like, basically, you're almost, like, drawing your breaths, and that combination alone, that actually helps to reset your nervous system, because suddenly now all your attention is on your hand making those simple movements, in time to your breath. If you got a little bit longer, put on a song you like and draw to the music. It's you know, it's almost a 2 for 1 because you have a song that is bringing out emotions in you, and again, you're getting your focus on what your hand is doing. And it doesn't have to do anything special, it's just that those 2 combinations shifts something in your brain, and it gets a lot of that tension out.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very simple to do and short.
Well, and then so for women who start doing these activities and these exercises regularly, what sorts of changes or benefits do you typically see? I mean, obviously we're talking about stress and burnout. Are there any other is there anything in particular that you notice like bigger changes with people who do these things a lot?
Oh, definitely, like the women who just finished the pilot with me, so it was, 12 weeks, so there's 2 exercises each week, basically, in addition to the worksheets. And I've been getting all of their feedback and I'm compiling all the data right now, the testimonials, the case studies. But the biggest thing that came up over and over again was they felt this renewed sense of energy, a renewed sense of clarity, a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, which, a lot of them had said they felt very stuck at the beginning and they didn't know where to go. And now they have a clearer sense of purpose and some goals they want to achieve for themselves, whether it's just, getting one example was having more family dinners where she didn't have to cook the dinner. Somebody else
Mhm.
would take turns. But she felt initially she couldn't impose because she was the mom. I'm in charge of
Mhm.
making dinner. I'm in charge of getting the groceries. And you start sort of checking yourself and going, do I have to do that?
Mhm.
Who said that I had to do that? Right?
Mhm.
It's you're putting those impositions on yourself. And if you don't take time to sort of develop a bit of awareness of why you're doing things, you
Mhm.
don't question it, right? So it's building in those, like, a lot of the women said because they were, meeting with me each week to discuss the exercises, they knew they had to take the time to pause and think about it. And
Mhm.
even though they're so stressed and busy, they started looking forward to that permission, the permission to rest, the permission to do something for themselves, and just recognizing they could give themselves that permission. It's okay to take time for yourself to do something for yourself. You don't always have to be on for everybody else. And I think just realizing that, made a huge difference as well.
Well, it sounds like it gives them the opportunity too, just to kind of explore, the expectations, right? The expectations that they have for themselves, where they came from. And to your point, like, is this something that I have to do? Can I allow somebody else to do it? Can I, take this off my plate? And so, it sounds like it really gives them an opportunity just to kind of, look inward and see what's going on there. One of the other things that I'm wondering about, I know you were just talking a minute ago about, giving permission to themselves and things like that. You know, if there are a lot of moms who I think know things that they can do that are good for them, that would be helpful for them. They hear these things, maybe they've tried these things before, they find them to be very helpful. And at the same time, they struggle to prioritize them or they struggle to do them. A lot of times they see them as one more thing on their to-do list. I've literally had people say to me, like, I have to put self-care on my to-do list, but then it feels like one more task I have to kind of check off, even if it's something that they want to do, right? And so I'm curious, like, what suggestions do you have for moms to start using creativity more regularly in their daily routines without it becoming just another thing to check off that list?
Well, definitely, it's all about lowering that barrier to entry, right? If you can just leave a pen and a pad of paper, like a little notepad, in various places, like it could be near your computer. So if you're stuck on a Zoom call, like I said, or it could be on, near the phone if call your parents regularly or call your kids regularly. It could just be something you do while you're doing another quote task. Um, the idea is to make it easy for yourself. Like if you are commuting, like maybe you just throw it in your purse and you just take a moment to like doodle while you're sitting on the train or the bus. It's meant to be something easy to pick up and put down. Just, the and then you build in that habit, right? You do build, it's like, habit stacking, right? We all find it difficult to pick up a new thing. And if you can kind of sandwich it in between things you're already doing, like maybe you're sitting in the parking lot waiting for your kid to come out of dance class or, hockey practice. If you're sitting in the arena waiting, my son played hockey. I was in the arena a lot and it
I
was,
used to play hockey. We have a bit of a hockey family too.
yep.
Mhm.
So,
Although
all of these moments where you are waiting, where normally you'd be just doom scrolling on your phone, right? Like that,
Mhm.
if you can kind of go, okay, maybe I won't pick up my phone. Maybe I'll just, you can even just like draw, just sit there and maybe just draw what you see around you. Like it doesn't have to be, again, like it doesn't have to look like the thing, but if it
Mhm.
just gives you a sense of, okay, I'm just going to sit here and, draw the lamppost over there, or draw the tree over there. It just, again, gets your attention out of whatever stresses have been happening in the day. And you just tend, you ruminate on them, right? Like that's the biggest issue for a lot of us working women is we tend to ruminate a lot on
Mhm.
things. And this is a good way of getting your brain out of that cycle. But yeah,
Mhm.
I would say just make it easy for yourself. Like just and have like, don't make it precious. Don't go out and buy, the most expensive moleskin notebook you need to find. Like we're talking, dollar store notebook and a pen and get a few of them and just leave them in various places because it's not meant to be fine art. Like if you lose
Mhm.
it, who cares? But
Mhm.
it's more that process of just sort of doing something for yourself.
Mhm. Well, and like you had said a couple minutes ago, it can be a challenge just to do something new, right? To kind of get it going. And so for moms who are interested or curious about trying something like this out, what is maybe one small step that they could take today?
Well, definitely, I would say, grab some of your kids' school supplies. Like a lot of the demonstrations I do are, with the kids' Crayola markers, and just sit down and pick some colors that appeal to you, and grab a piece of paper and just, you know, think about your perfect day. This is another exercise we do. And it's try to capture the feelings of what a perfect day feels like, a favorite day. Is it that warm cup of coffee in the morning? Is it reading your book in a hammock? Is it just sitting quietly for a moment on your deck? And, just it doesn't have to, again, be fine art, but allow yourself that moment to reflect on what feels good about that day. And yeah, just draw it out with a few colored markers or, you know, and I bet you they'll feel really good after it, and they'll also realize, the thing about the favorite day is it typically doesn't cost anything. Like, you'll realize, "Oh, I just wanna sit with my cup of coffee and
Mhm.
my book for a moment."
Mhm.
Right? It's not like I have to fly to Hawaii or something extravagant, right? It's
Mhm.
it's recognizing what fills your cup, what lights you up, and just recognizing it, right? And then the nice thing is once you have this little doodle, you can pin it somewhere. You can put
Mhm.
it by your fridge, you could put it by your computer, and it reminds you of, you know, these are the things that I like to have in my life.
Mhm. Yeah, I have to say, I was talking a little while ago about how I am personally not a creative person, but just listening to you talk today, I'm feeling inspired. So maybe maybe I'll go and try some of these things later. So so people who want to learn more about this, people who want to learn more about you and the work that you do, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, easiest place is go to my website. It's
Mhm.
mindartwellness.com. On there, you can find a link to sign up for my weekly newsletter, The Creative Shift. It comes with all kinds of wellness tips and creative prompts. Comes out once a week. And there's also a free 5-day creative reset challenge. And it's basically you get an email each day for 5 days. It has a little couple of prompts and a little link to a video of me demonstrating the creative activity. In fact, I believe favorite day is on that creative challenge as well. So that's where I'd say I'm also active on LinkedIn for because I work with a number of professional women. So LinkedIn is the place to be if you want to connect with me on social media.
Okay. That sounds great. So I will make sure that I include all of that in the show notes for anybody who is interested in checking some of those things out. So before we wrap up for today, if you could leave the moms who are listening with maybe one final piece of advice, one final thought or message, what would it be?
Well, definitely it's that give yourself one small pause each day that belongs only to you. Like even if it's 2 minutes, breathe slowly. You can make a few marks on paper while you breathe. Like I said, do a few loops and just treat it as a reset for your nervous system, not another task. It's just meant to lighten the load a little bit, both mentally and emotionally. And yeah, take that break for yourself.
Okay, well, great. Well, and thank you so much for that. And thank you again so much for being here. I really mean it. I really, really appreciate it. I know it's a lot to ask people to, share their time. And so I'm just very thankful. And as always, for the moms who are listening, if any of this resonates with you, or if you found any of these things that we talked about today to be helpful or valuable, you can certainly look up Lexi and what she does. I will post those things in the notes. And then also, I would ask that you please share this podcast with any other moms that maybe could use some additional support. Because as always, again, we are all in this together.
Definitely. And please reach out to me as well. I'm always happy to lend an ear.
Great. Well, thank you.